Seeing none, is there anybody in the audience here who would like to make a comment under public comment? Seeing none, we're going to move on to item 3, which is the consent agenda. And that includes item 3A, approved minutes of September 22nd, 2025, approved minutes of October 1st, 2025, special board meeting. Item 3C, approved disbursements for October 27th, 2025, and 3D, monthly revenue report and expense report for period ending September 30th, 2025. Is there anyone like to pull any of those items?
I will pull 3B only because I wasn't here. if we could vote that separately so I can abstain.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
I move to approve consent agenda items A, C, and D.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3B. Is
Move to approve item 3B.
there a second?
Second.
I'm going to take a roll call, please.
Dr. Nagangas,
Abstain.
Dr. Marsh,
Yes.
Dr. Boyd,
Yes.
Dr. Dye,
Yes.
Dr. Slater-Carter,
Yes.
Chair Ruddock.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. We're moving on to item 4, regular business. 4A is discuss the preliminary design report prepared by Stantec Consulting Services for the electrical system relocation project.
Thank you very much, Chair. The electrical system relocation project actually was initiated after we had a lot of flooding in the electrical building, which is housed in mechanical building 1. That happened during the winters of 2021 and 22-23. It faced flooding from Pillarsitos Creek, and this elevation of the mechanical building 1 is 14.88 feet above sea level and makes it more susceptible to flooding. And therefore, SAM staff reached out to FEMA and obtained a grant for the electrical system relocation project. We brought it to the board in the month of June after going out for a bid for the design for the electrical relocation. And Stantec was awarded this project on June 9th, on the SAM board meeting of June 9th, 2025. So today we are bringing to you the preliminary design report prepared by Stantec Consulting Services. And SAM staff has been discussing with Stantec, and Stantec has actually come up with 4 options. And today we would like the board to give their opinion about these 4 options so that they can move forward and complete the final design for the electrical relocation project. This project is required to be, the design is required to be completed by April. And Stantec is well on track. By FEMA, we are required to complete it by, I would say, May 16th, 2026. So I have Stantec personnel out here. We have Long and Sochi. So Long will be making a short presentation in the PowerPoint, and they'll be here to answer any questions.
Okay, they stand or come over here.
I'll move there.
this looking really fun.
Before they start, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Has the FEMA funding for this design been received?
Yes, we will be receiving part of it, whatever we submitted. At least the process is started, I would say.
So you're
we have not
submitting
received
invoices and
funding.
they're
No, we
reimbursed.
don't get full funding until we submit the invoices.
Right,
And
I
they were-
understand that, I was just wondering what the status was.
Yeah, so we have submitted, we've got about, let me tell you, about $8,000 or something. We got the small amount. 8,000, we've got a small amount. We've submitted, that was submitted we submitted every quarter. We are required to submit it every quarter. So the first 3 quarters, starting of October 2024, we had got reimbursed the management costs. And after that, in June, when we got Stantec started working on it, we have submitted the invoice with the project expenditure. We yet to get reimbursed on that.
Is that the 400,000 or so?
Yeah, the total is what amount we've got, FEMA amount is about 436,000.
Yeah, that was phase 1.
That you're expecting, but you haven't received.
No, listen, we have received $8,000 because we've invoiced only that much during that quarter.
So you were expecting 436,000.
At the end of the project, yes.
Kitchen, can I just clarify? What did you submit in June? Was that for the whole Stantec contract or
No,
just for the, what we
Whatever-
paid so
yeah,
far?
whatever Stantec invoices us is what we have
We
to
submit.
get, we submit it to FEMA.
It's a reimbursable
To
grant.
be reimbursable, basically.
Thank you.
And if it only costs $399, that's what you get reimbursed, not the 400. It's whatever you submit. So
Correct,
you-
whatever we submit,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, so you can go on to the. Share the screen, sorry. Share the screen. Share the screen.
And then I can just page through with the.
Yeah, wait a minute, you have to. You should ask him to minimize that, Tim.
Can we make it just one column of it?
But I've done it on my laptop, but he needs to do that. Yeah. Okay, over to law.
All right. So since the June meeting, we have done a few things. We gone out to the site and did a site survey of the existing facilities and the locations that were discussed as far as potential installation for the new electrical equipment. We did so this is a map of the site and the 4 locations that we evaluated. Location number 1 is the existing MB1 building. We looked at whether we could provide some sort of protection around the building, create some sort of water proofing, but the idea of doing that makes access really difficult, and then also maintaining the seals is also difficult. So the only option for if we went with MB1 is if we built a second floor to the building. The second location would be the admin building here, and doing the same thing as basically building a second floor and then moving the admin staff upstairs and putting electrical here. Third location would be the garage and shop area. We would take that over and retrofit it for electrical. And then the fourth location would be the open grass area just outside of the admin building here. So came up with some visual to kind of show you what this would look like. It's in order to get the equipment on top of the existing building, we'd have to retrofit the existing structure. There's some concrete spalling that our structural engineer noticed. The pros of doing this particular approach would be is it's the lowest of the electrical installation. Since everything will be upstairs, we can just pipe straight down. However, and there's really no site impact to this approach. The cons is the unknown about building walls and structure, whether it could support a large load on top. Electrical equipments are very heavy. Plus, maintenance, getting staff upstairs to make any repairs or retrofits. We'd have to put in stairs access, potentially elevators and things like that.
Those little
And plus, we'd have to. There's impact to the existing electrical system, so we'd have to do some sort of.
Excuse me, Lon. Sid, can you mute, please? Thank you.
We'd have to do shutdowns and things like that as they build, so that's not a viable approach either. So the second approach here, this shows the addition up top.
That was in the front room, but if you
It's mirroring
waited
the
back where the
existing-
dining room was, that was, and you look out the dining room window and down into that alley. There was
Sid, we can hear you. Would you please mute?
one-story cabins, and they were
Please,
the original
speak and
earthquake
mute
shacks from
yourself.
San Francisco in 1906, and one went on the market.
Can you mute her?
I can.
Yeah, mute her.
Did.
Okay.
Okay.
You should try again.
Is everyone else muted?
I didn't check.
Let's hope so. Okay. All right. So this option here, we would put the admin staff on the upper floor, and we'd retrofit the bottom floor for the electrical equipment. Pros of this is, again, we're not impacting anything on site. We would get a new office space up above. That yes. However, there's still the cost of doing the remodel. We'd have to relocate the admin staff to like a trailer or something like that while the work is going on. And then because it's an existing building, everything would have to be installed, exposed, rich conduits and everything else. So there is a higher cost. And depending on how you want to go with the addition, it could be a higher class type cost as far as the architectural buildings go, kind of thing. So to us, this is the most cost of the four options.
Would that require an elevator if staff is located upstairs?
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
thought so.
So all the ADA requirements, everything else, it's definitely it's a nice, but it's definitely an expensive approach. Okay, so then our third approach is to take over the garage and shop. Again, no site impact. This is of the three existing buildings. This has the lowest cost as far as reusing it for the electrical equipment. The major cons would be the city would lose this shop. It looks like there is work being done in here for
City, yeah.
yeah, for projects and things like that. There is some added remodeling costs in here for buildings because we'll have to build walls and seal off the tops between the generator room and the electrical room and do noise abatement and things like that. So, and also being that it's an existing building, we'll have to also install everything exposed. So more costs in terms of conduits and things like that. The fourth option is essentially using the existing space that we have across from the admin building here. We would build a similar block type building. We could finish it similar to the front area there with a smooth stucco finish, or we can go exposed CMU blocks I'm not too sure we could get the similar type of the long bricks that would match this building, but we'll definitely look at those as far as finishes go. This approach has a lower electrical cost in that everything will be underground. So we'll bring all the conduits up, through the building underground using PVC conduits. Won't have very much exposed conduits other than typical for some lighting and receptacles and HVACs and fans and things like that. You also, a big pro to this is that we could build this building without really impacting any of the existing processes. We'll still have some trenching that we have to do through the site to make all the conduit connections, but at least we won't need to impact any facilities until we're done, and then we can do the final electrical connections. So there'll be some outages as we get towards the completion of the project, but while we're constructing this, there won't be any impact. And then if there's any potential equipment delays, so most electrical equipment are now scaling back to at least about a year to a year and a half for lead time. During COVID, and even up till about last year, there's still a huge backlog. So all the major manufacturers were still trying to get caught up. It's not back to where it was pre-COVID, but they're getting better. But we don't know if there's potentially anything else. I mean, so you have the tariff issues, cost has gone up, and supply and demand issues. So if we went this route, if any of the delays in terms of getting the equipment on site, we don't have to worry about, having it impact any of the existing facility because we have, any retrofits to do with the building. So we could absorb that delay, I guess is what I'm going with it. So the only really major con to this is that we would lose that open space over there. So okay. And then so I just did a quick comparison of the cost for the 4 different alternatives here. And mostly if you look at the electrical costs, the equipment is very much similar across the board. It's just the cost of the retrofitting of the buildings and what we'd have to do to make it work. And having a block electrical building is generally fairly cheap to do. Okay. And so based on that, we would recommend the alternative 4. And there's room, we measured out the area out there, and there's room to place a generator and electrical room in that space. And this also allows us, I think Keisha mentioned that Sam has been talking to PG&E, and so they'll probably, with this relocation, they'll bring their service in from the highway. So it makes sense that having it here would allow PG&E to connect to the new electrical much easier, and then we don't have to do anything in the back, potentially with poles or underground. And then, so yeah, and like I said, the construction, essentially construction schedule and equipment delivery, that could all be, we can adjust to that because we're not really impacting any of the existing processes and facilities. Okay. Any questions or?
And so we'll start by taking questions from directors.
Stop sharing so that people
Okay.
see them.
Okay, why don't you start?
Okay, they're not actually really hard questions. First of all, the report was really, really well done. So thanks to the technical questions I had, I learned a lot reading the report. Couple of questions on the location. One is, it's alongside the creek, but I guess a higher elevation. So do you recommend that we have a berm or something to harden that area between the building and the creek?
So you'd have to, if we berm it up, you'd almost have to protect the whole site. So any flow, now when we put the floor of the new building, we could have it raised up on a taller pad.
On a pad, yeah.
On a pad. So the building will sit on a pad, and the pad will be, we could raise it up higher than the normal. We don't want it too high because if we have to move in equipment and things like that, it makes it a little bit more difficult, but we can definitely have the pad be raised up a little higher.
Okay.
But it's not on the floodplain.
It's not. So this area here, based on the previous reports, indicate that it's at the highest point of the plant.
Okay. My next question is really maybe also for Tim and Kishan, and that is, after we had the flood, we really built up the berm. And do we have any sense how much protection that gave us? So would we, if we were not able to do anything, would we still get 10 inches of water in a similar situation in the electrical building, or has the berm given us at least some insurance?
The existing berm was actually evaluated by hydrodynamic modeling done by Integral Consulting a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And they felt that it was adequate to deal with whatever we went through in the past.
Okay. So if we did have a significant delay in being able to do this because of the funding, we've got some confidence that the berm still gives us some protection.
Yes.
Okay. Question 3, then Kish, I think you answered this, but the design that is scheduled to be completed by March 2026, that's all incorporated in the current contract.
May 2026. Sorry,
Oh, it says
May
March
2026.
2026.
I mentioned
But we're,
March. But they would finish it.
but we would finish by March.
As per, sorry, the contract is March, of course, but FEMA requires it to be completed by May 2026.
Okay, so on schedule, and that's already in the contract that we already approved. Last is really, if we don't get the money, and maybe you already answered this with the berm. Are there other alternatives to moving the equipment? But it sounds like the berm is really giving us some reasonable assurance that we wouldn't have the same flood in the same situation. It's just
This kind of question coming.
the,
If
if we don't get the phase 2 money,
What do you mean if you don't go for construction?
yeah, if it doesn't get funded, if FEMA pulls the funding, because we know we have a risk that FEMA could pull back even the funding they've already granted.
Yeah, I mean, two things could happen. Either FEMA could pull the funding, or the board could decide that we don't have funds, we don't want to move forward with it. But then what would happen is we would need to return back the costs that have been incurred that we've drawn from FEMA for the design.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
really? I don't
Yes.
remember that.
I remember that risk.
We have to give the money back to the design?
It is a part of the FEMA.
I don't remember.
I remember that being a risk when we approved it, that
Yeah.
we might end up having to put that bill. The,
The advantage is you'll have a design-ready project, which is not going to change. The design will be ready. If whenever we get funding, we can do that.
But we do need additional funding to
Yeah.
complete phase 2. Right, $2 million.
Oh, yes, that's what we're working on.
$6
here.
million.
No, the
Well,
shortfall is about
3
$3
point,
million.
3.3.
3.3 is the shortfall. So if we don't get that, our options are, we go back to the agencies to see if we want to add into the budget to pay for that. Is there a time frame that would have to be completed by?
A few corrections here. The shortfall, although it's 3.3, I know it's been, the estimate is also what the contingency is 15%. And as it is, the estimate itself is plus 30 and minus 15. That's number one. Number two, this estimated shortfall also includes a generator for which the member agencies have already funded $1 million.
But we already used some of that money.
Yeah,
for
that's a
something.
different question altogether. But yeah, if we do that, then we'll have to say,
Don't worry about
come
kitchen.
on. Then we'll have to say the force main, we're falling short of money. Some other project we're falling. I'm just saying the generator is already being accounted for. So that's why I'm saying 2.3 is what.
2.3, not 3.3.
That's what I understood.
That's right. That's the way I go about it. And the construction has to be completed by June 2028.
Okay.
So we still have 2 years. And this decision does not have to be taken now. We can take the decision in April when we get the final design report and we submit it to FEMA. And that time we can see what's the status of our funding, whether Sam has been able to get funds from outside the agency, some other sources, which we are working on. State revolving funds and other places, grants, and I think we are working on that. So at that point of time, we can take a decision.
Okay.
Can I-
Just the last thing I noted is that the building position is 20 feet wide in a 27-foot space. So I don't know what the setback requirements are for the city, but that's just something to keep an eye on. They're pretty big for the county for a commercial building.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Well,
say,
this isn't commercial, this is a public facility.
Right.
I imagine that Half Bay would help sound.
Long had a
So-
clarification, but
yeah, so not a clarification, but an add-on. So as I was talking to Vice Chair Slater Carter earlier, is that from an engineering perspective, there's multiple ways we could approach solving a problem. If we needed to cut costs, one approach is we don't build a building. We can build the pad and the electrical equipment, not ideal. And go with outdoor rated enclosures. We are close to the ocean, which has salt corrosion issues. But if we get into that bind, that's an approach we can, scale back on some of those things and still get the electrical relocated and installed. But that's just something that we can cross that bridge if we need to, but that's just.
Yeah, I think it sounds to me like you're working on backup possibilities for funding, and I think that's great. Because I've been in situations recently where people are looking at things sequentially and not, in parallel. So it's important that we look at alternative funding sources in parallel. And, be having conversations with like our legislators, because we may need, state
Yeah.
funding backup. But I'm glad to hear that you're looking in parallel at this issue and not waiting until the other shoe drops. So
we're also working on solar as well as battery. We're coming out with an RFQ, RFP sometime in November. But we had a short presentation to the finance committee a couple of weeks back by one of the vendors. But we're reaching out to other vendors also, a couple of them, and sending out an RFQ, RFP. We'll bring it to the board once we are able to finalize. But that will be a self-funding project.
Mhm.
It's like a power purchase agreement for a couple of years where it pays for itself. So we're working on those too. So then that is also being coordinated with the Stantec design so that we can all.
And I will say this, so One Shoreline has been very interested in helping solve this problem. So, we would want to be engaging One Shoreline as a potential funder. And one thing they do, not just fund, but they work with legislators to fund. So I think a conversation, Len Matterman, the EO of One Shoreline, asked me like, where were you in this process? And I said, well, you have some money, potentially not all of it. And so they would be interested in, helping us out. So we want to use them as a consult on this funding situation too. Let me just check in with Nancy. Have you had your questions answered?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Scott.
You mentioned the 500-year design point. I didn't see anything in the report talking about your methodology for determining what that 500-year design point was. I did look into the FEMA guidelines, and it's like we've got like the most complicated thing to do because we've got sea level rise, we're in a flood zone, we've got a creek.
Right.
So it's like, sounds like to arrive at that number, we'd actually need some modeling to get there. Did you conduct modeling or are we working from the hazard maps?
Right. So the location that where the new electrical building is based on the previous reports that we received from Sam in terms and input from Keisha and his team as far as where the highest point on site would be without having to go through and do an extensive modeling. So the modeling part wasn't part of what.
Okay, I'm a little concerned because the report asserts that it meets the 500-year design point, but I don't think information from staff would be sufficient to satisfy that claim. And before we decide on the pad elevation,
Yeah.
I would need to see that we'd actually done due diligence on determining what that point is.
I will say this, that often funders will not fund modeling. So the modeling very likely would have to be a cost that we would have to bear.
They will
They can
be,
check that.
they will be, but I also read the FEMA guideline document and it requires that the work be done. And frankly, I don't want to see this kind of investment until we've decided, what's actually, I'd hate to build it and then be a foot short. And we know that the current sea level rise estimates are accelerating and getting larger. And, current thinking is 50 years, we're going to see 1.5 feet sea level rise, but we also have king tides, we also have tsunami, we also have a creek that floods and larger and larger storms. So we're seeing.
The recent data I saw, the most recent was 0.08 by 2050.
Maybe I'm thinking in 50 years, but the numbers are, the models are getting more and better informed and, so.
Yeah, just to.
I'm not arguing with the thing. It's just on the point of by the time we get to construction, I would very much like to see some substantiation to back up the claim. And the FEMA guidance on how to get there seems solid. So
Yeah, just to clarify your point, Scott, when we submitted the FEMA application many years back, we got rejected because we hadn't done modeling for the 500-year storm. Subsequent to that, we got it done by Integral Consulting and submitted all these documents of modeling to FEMA. Based on that is what was awarded. But nevertheless, we give all the modeling details to Stantec to do a peer review and they can look at it.
yeah,
You might also get a letter from Integral.
Yeah.
Just reiterating all this stuff.
no, that's great.
So we've done
That's
it.
terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, that was the basis for which we got the FEMA one. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got it. First time we lost it, then we took some time, did all this thing, and then submitted.
Okay.
A little bit of comfort level for you, but we'll make sure.
That's great.
Stantec-
And now we get the chance to,
Sure.
It's a good
put
question,
that
very
into the
good
working
question.
docs. On the funding, you did mention in the staff report that you're looking at state revolving funds and other infrastructure grant loans and bond financing programs. So I just wanted to say, it's right there in the staff report. So I took comfort before I even dove into the report. I'm like, okay, that's a lot of money, but
We are looking.
like we always do, we look around, find potato scraps, see if we can make it add up. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm curious, what are we talking about doing with the old building? Once we get all the electrical stuff out of it, that's a question for Keishan and Tim. I'm sure we'll find a use for it.
So not all of so we'll be removing the main switch gear. There's still some VFDs and there's still some MCCs that needs to stay. So,
And how will we protect those from flooding?
so that's that's another problem.
I don't know.
So the grant, I believe, and the design is to move the main service and the main control panel up higher so that we don't lose the entire plant if we do have flooding. So I know that we did talk about potentially raising the MCCs up. But that would be something that we would look at as a different project, given that the grant was limited to.
Yeah, and that building has, part of it has already got blowers, so we will not be touching that part of it.
Oh,
It's got centrifugal blowers, it's not only the electrical part of it.
right,
Almost half of the building has got bed press and it's got blowers. So a small portion is the electrical part of it.
gotcha, gotcha.
So,
Well, so part of this then is what we do to protect that building from another
Mhm.
flood. I mean, moving all the stuff is well and good, and there's, as far as I can see, given the money situation and the ease of construction, the alternate new building makes the most sense, to my point of view. I know from my own experience, remodeling anything costs more.
Yeah.
And we can get things set up exactly the way we want to for that. But I'd like part of this discussion to be, all right, what are we doing to keep in your electrical, so we'd have to be talking to a different engineer, but what are we doing to protect that building? We still have the marks on the wall as you have seen, and it was pretty deep. Maybe what we do is we just put a pipe that comes into it and then goes out of it, so the water can only get 6 inches deep.
Or a detention basin between the creek and the building.
Right,
Do we need the building?
yes, well, they just said so.
We have the
They've got
blowers
equipment.
there, we have the bed press.
Oh, right, there's more in there than the
Yeah.
electrical. Yeah, sorry, I forgot.
Now, we do have one public speaker. But yeah, I'm just saying that, so I want to know if anybody else has additional comments, because we do have a public speaker.
Okay, thank you. First of all, yes, I agree. This is an excellent report. It's very clear. It seems to me that alternative 4 is the way to go on this. Well spelled out, lots of good documentation. My concern is funding. Especially absent, a direct threat at this point, the feeling that the berm is going to protect us for a while. We have yet to know what the cost of the force main in Montero is going to be.
Yes, to answer your question, we will know about it only in April of 2026, April or May. The guaranteed maximum price will be given to the board at that point of time. They're just about 25 to 30% design now. So as they move forward, then we'll have the price. So contractually, they are required to give it to us only by April of each year.
Right, so I look forward to that, and I look forward to moving that project along. That's absolutely critical and required by lawsuit settlements and the situation on the ground. This one is important, something we should do, but I certainly applaud looking for funding sources. But I do have a concern that we get ourselves in a position where we suddenly are on hook for a lot, $500,000, even though we're also getting some perhaps significant additional government funding. And that's just, I just want to raise that as something I want to keep an eye on before we go moving forward with any kind of commitment on this. So I look forward to what we find out in terms of funding that's available.
Paul, did you have any questions?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Thank you for the report. Question, it's a FEMA's hazard mitigation grant program. We're not the only ones that submitted something and then all of a sudden tariffs, the cost of construction is essentially skyrocketed, what our original estimate is. Is FEMA kind of indicated, hey, we know these costs or something? We need to, I don't know if you're talking to somebody about that.
After we received the preliminary design report, with these prices, we've reached out to FEMA and Cal OES.
Yeah.
So they'll put us on wait list. So they know that this is coming, but they said that as soon as we get funds, we'll reach out to you, but right now you are on wait list. So I do not have a confirmation, but with these numbers, I've already reached out to them.
Okay, because this happens a lot.
Yeah.
Till you know the numbers, you don't know till you know.
Correct.
So-
Right now, they don't have funds immediately, so they can't commit,
Right.
but they put us on wait list.
Right. And then, is anybody going to think this is an expansion of the plant? No?
No.
Okay, good. I don't, and I don't know if
Tara will.
this needs a CDP or not.
This is a straight across replacement.
Okay, I'm good. I'm just throwing it out there because I've seen stuff get
Yeah,
thrown out there. So
no, I
Doesn't
think it's really
increase
important.
capacity.
The point you raised is really important. If we intend it to be straight across replacement, we should just say that
Yes.
as we go.
Yes. Be upfront on this is,
That's a good point.
and then, sometimes water, we try our best to control it, and you can't. Sometimes you figure where it's going to go. So, sometimes looking at the design, maybe the water goes around it if we have overtopping. I know we're going to try and berm up along the creek, but there's several solutions to help us through that. And no, they answered. Somebody else already asked that question. Thank you. That's
Okay.
it.
Nancy, one more.
A quick follow-up, just to clarify. The previous budget funding for generator notwithstanding, your request to FEMA for additional funding is going to be the full 3.3?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Moving on to public speakers, Greg.
Had a comment.
What's that? Greg?
Thanks, Debbie. I apologize for missing a prior meeting on this, apparently. I had a couple of comments and then a question. 3% cost escalation is a bit low. Over the last 25 years, the Army Corps of Engineers shows 3.69% compounding, which would be 11.5% over 3 years. And as you all mentioned, we have the issues of tariffs and supply chain price anomalies. So I think that's a overly low estimate. I also want to just point out that Alternative 4 has an extra benefit, which is that it does have, Alternative 4 lacks a benefit, which is the extra elevation of a second floor. And all your discussion about possibly overtopping the creek and so forth would apply. But my major issue is a question of what are we protecting from? Are we protecting the equipment or the wires and the junctions of those wires, or both? When I was there during at least one of those floods, like you were mentioning, I saw marks on an electrical panel that went 6 or 8 inches up and fortunately stopped short of where the wire terminated and joined into the panel. The water came from underneath. So how are we protecting from that? I heard a mention of PVC pipes, so presumably there's a conduit which is going to shield the electrical wires. If those wires are still coming from underground, the questions are as follows, because the elevation of the building wouldn't solve this problem. It would require there be no junctures until that conduit ended on a higher elevation, a second floor, whatever. Are we certain that the PVC cover pipes are watertight, won't crack, can be tested for water tightness periodically, and can be repaired if earth movement occurs? So am I asking a relevant question is one question.
So the conduit type, the PVC conduit, once we pull wires in there, you don't want to seal it because if you have to pull out wires, it makes it more difficult. We could use some sort of, we typically duct seal, but it's usually not designed to be completely watertight. So normally we don't seal electrical conduits like we would seal, say, a water pipe. And I do understand your concern about potentially having water come up the pipe, but that's only if, you know, the whole site gets flooded, then it pushes water up the pipe. Otherwise, the water would be at whatever elevation it is. And yes, it will come in through the manholes and then push up the piping, but unless the whole site is flooded, you won't get water, you know, coming out of the conduits. There's, you know, just from a elevation
Well,
standpoint.
the conduits aren't watertight then, and the water does come from underneath, as we've seen twice before. Okay, so what about junctions in the wire that exist in the conduit? Those would then be exposed.
The splices. So
Yes.
yeah, so any splices that would be made in the conduit run would be sealed watertight. So those could be submerged in water and not have any issues.
Thank you.
Are there any other speakers online to address this item? Seeing no hands raised, I'll bring it back. Catherine, you had a question?
Yeah. In listening to an earlier comment, one of the problems that has caused this organization much grief is postponing projects. It has cost us many millions of dollars in about the last 10 or 15 years. Instead of handling projects when they were needed and finding a way to pay for them, we postponed them, and they went up millions of dollars. And I think electrical power and safety are critical issues for the plant, for the community, for the environment, and for more than anyone, the people who work here. And I think if we need to find a way to get this done. And it's not easy. The districts are having a problem. Goodness knows, you know, Montero has got that Seal Cove issue that's costing us a ton of money. It would be really easy for us to say, no, we don't want to participate in this. But I think it's critical to the long-term benefit of the plant that we get this done at the more affordable price now. Because we've seen the prices go up dramatically in the past. So that's my point of view on waiting.
Okay. So if there are no other questions or comments, I would say it's now time for a motion.
Was this information only or motion?
Motion because
It's listed as
Oh,
only
I'm-
discussion.
I'd like to motion that we approve going forward with the new building alternative 4.
I would second that motion. Any further comments?
In terms of design.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, could I have a roll call, please?
Director Megan-Gust,
Yes.
Director Marsh.
Yes,
Director Boyd,
Yes.
Director Dye,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter,
Yes.
Chair Radek.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we are actually going to be moving forward with the design on the basis of alternative 4.
That's what the motion was.
We're not moving forward with the project.
construction.
Yeah, this is only for the design.
No, but we make a motion. I just want the motion to.
Okay, you got that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, very good.
It's nice to see something come through, so nice and clear.
Thank you.
All right. We are moving to the general manager's report.
We detailed report is there in your packet, and staff is here to answer any questions, so monthly report is already there.
Any questions?
Just a request for Tim.
Yep.
It's like, I do read them, and I just wonder on the daily things on your report, what kind of what happened every day. I don't know what's routine and not routine. So if you could just highlight the things that might be a little bit out of routine when those happen, so I know there's something to pay special attention to.
Got it. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we've received the general manager's report, but I will say, is there anybody in the public online who would like to comment about this item? Seeing none, we will move to item 6, which is the attorney's report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quick comment on item 4 that was just approved by the board. There is in the parentheses, there is a notation that the board could possibly take action on the following items. So it was appropriate to take the action the board took. So just a clarification. There was an issue raised as to whether it was just simply for discussion. So I think the board's fine with the action they took. As to, I wanted to bring up one item that I've brought up to the board before, and that's SB 707. It did pass on October 3rd. It is the largest amendment to the Brown Act, perhaps ever, but certainly in a long, many years. Very significant changes. I have a memo for the board that I was going to send out today until I realized that the legislature snuck some things in as to joint powers authorities that I had not anticipated. There's some things that are a little incongruous in there with the way that other agencies are treated. I guess and once the board's had a chance to look at the memo, I can certainly discuss this at a future date, but just a couple of highlights. There's some good things for most agencies. There's more flexibility. The ability to participate remotely was extended through 2030. It would have expired on January 1st otherwise. Also, the number of meetings that it can be attended remotely. I lost the board there. And everybody still hear me okay?
We can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was weird that switched over to a different photo. But anyway, so there's greater number of meetings that can be attended. On the other hand, particularly for the city of Half Moon Bay, the way that the legislation ultimately wound up, special districts were ultimately carved out from most of what people would consider onerous provisions of SB 707. The onerous provisions involve the requirement to translate agendas into different languages, which can be difficult, as well as to facilitate having someone available to translate in real time to the extent it doesn't disrupt the meeting, which that'll be tricky. So unfortunately, in urbanized counties over 600,000, all cities are required to comply with these new requirements, which I'll lay out in more detail in the memo, which is going to take some thought, but ahead of the deadline, which is July 1st. Special districts mostly got benefits from SB 707, as indicated, more flexibility, more meetings that can be attended remotely. And there's some confusion I would just identify for joint powers authorities. In particular, there's a couple provisions which seem like they're almost inconsistent with the rest of the statute. For example, there's a notation that if a board member of a JPA receives compensation, then they must participate in a location available to the public. But if you're participating in a location available to the public, it kind of almost defeats the purpose of some of those provisions to begin with. If you have an illness, if you have to take care of a child, if you're doing something which requires you to miss a meeting and you still want to participate for just cause on short notice. And so I need to dig into that a little bit more and try to maybe talk to CSDA and figure out, because one of the things that occurred to me is, well, compensation from whom, right? So if it's compensation from the member agency, maybe that's not a problem. It doesn't say. So that's just an ambiguity that's built in. And I guess if we have to pick, and we don't get any clarification on that point, and we'll have to make a determination in our policy. One thing that's required for joint powers authorities, we're going to have to do to allow us to take advantage of remote participation. We're going to have to do a resolution of the board basically setting out a policy, how we're going to do it going forward. So that'll be one of the issues we struggle with a little bit and talk about as we adopt this policy. So anyway, to be continued, I would say probably by the end of the day, Wednesday, I should be able to have the memo to all of you. And I prepared it. We prepared it within the firm for, we have a lot of different clients it affects, and so at very little cost to this agency. But anyway, I'll have that out to you all. I'm happy to talk about it once you've had a chance to review. So with that, thank you for the time to speak.
Thank you, Jeremy. Item 7, any directors have reports? Okay, moving on to item 8, topics for future board consideration. Item 9, do we have any closed session items?
Yes, we do have, Chair.
Yeah. The first one, item A, is not, there's no need for that. So don't worry about that. It'll just be the general counsel one, which whenever y'all want, I will drop off.
Okay, so we're going to convene in closed session. So
They need a 5-minute break so that they can.
yeah, 5-minute break, and everybody else who's not part of the team needs to, sign off.
Do you guys have Christopher?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Okay. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm here.
Okay. Thanks.
Need the
Oh, there's Christopher.
Happy trails. Tell everybody you don't have to go home, but